Hello all, this video will show our project, currently called The Edge of Peace. This project explores a dystopian story set in a society where pacifism is not just encouraged, but is morally enforced. In this place, violence is considered unacceptable in the society, and people are ranked based on their ability to remain calm, controlled, and non-violent. From childhood, the citizens are taught to restrain their emotions, with the belief that violence is always inferior. The goal of this project is to explore what happens when the system is challenged. The narrative focuses on the protagonist, Javan, who lives with this pacifist society and at first believes its values. However, when an external threat comes to threaten the society, Javan must intervene physically to protect everyone he knows. This creates a moral and social conflict, as their actions go against everything the society believes in. The core idea behind this project is to explore moral absolution versus moral flexibility. The story questions if a belief system can remain ethical if it refuses to adapt in extreme situations, instead of showing violence as heroic when required. The main character of the story is Javan Irwin, also known as Jav to his friends. He is an 18-year-old who has grown up inside the pacifist society, and at the start of the story, he believes in its values. He is confident and is a natural leader. However, beneath that, he struggles with pressure and suppresses his anger. He wants to do the right thing and be accepted, but he also questions that if the system he lives in can truly survive in the real world. Javan's character arc is central to the narrative. He begins as someone who follows the rules and seeks approval, but over time he is forced to confront reality, that the rules he grew up with may not work when it comes to survival. By the end of the story, he transforms into someone who acts based on judgment rather than what is expected of him, even if it comes at a personal cost. The mentor of the story is Onyx Mac Rowdy, often referred to as Mr. Mac. He is an older outcast who lives on the outside of the main town and does not follow its beliefs. Unlike the rest of the world, he understands the danger of violence and how necessary it can be to survive. He plays a key role in Javan's development, not only by encouraging aggression, but by teaching control and intention. Mr. Mac has a harsh and distant personality, often like he does not care. But in reality, he deeply cares for Javan and only wants him to survive in a world that he believes is flawed. He represents the old world, and acts as a bridge between the past and the present ways. The antagonist of the story is Saxa Kunigund, also known as The Chosen. She's not a traditional villain in the sense of having a pure evil plan, but instead she represents the opposite extreme of the society's ideology. As the society rejects violence completely, Saxa embraces it fully. She believes in strength and survival, as well as the idea that the weak should not exist. The story begins in a highly structured pacifist society where violence is illegal and morally condemned. As Javan prepares for his 18th birthday, which includes a public test to measure his emotional control and commitment to non-violence. Passing this assessment marks entry into adulthood. During this test, news spreads of a threat that is coming, a pack of wild human and wolf hybrids. The society attempts to negotiate with them. The leaders and citizens remain calm, trusting in their system. Even as the threat escalates, the pack cannot be reasoned with, and the danger escalates. After witnessing a clearly preventable loss, Javan must choose to physically intervene. This stops the immediate danger, but shocks the society. Javan is criticised and is socially isolated, and his actions are seen as morally wrong despite saving many lives. With this change, Javan leaves the town after losing his place in society, as he understands that mortality may require balance rather than absolute rules. During his time away, Javan meets Onyx Mac Rowdy. He is an older man living on the outskirts of the town, in a distant settlement. He is known locally as Mr. Mac. Mr. Mac is an outcast who does not follow the strict pacifist system. He allows Javan to stay, recognizing his internal conflict. Rather than teaching him to fight aggressively, Mr. Mac trains Javan to control his emotions through both practical and mental exercises along with repeated failure. Javan loses to discipline and restrain his emotions. Mr. Mac makes it clear that violence without control is just as dangerous as blind pacifism. With this guidance, Javan is shaped into someone who acts out of understanding and responsibility. With the threat of the pack returning in greater numbers, Javan returns to the town that rejected him. Once again, the town tries to negotiate with immediate failure, and Javan's final confrontation eliminates the threat. Danger ends, but the victory is very uncomfortable. The story ends with the town questioning whether absolute pacifism is sustainable. Javan has returned changed, not recognised as superior, but as someone who exposed the limits of the system. From a traditional perspective, the story uses a clear, narrow narrative structure. It also relies on dialogue, emotional pacing, and thematic development to show the core message. From a digital perspective, our project is designed to be implemented using Unity. Using Unity allows us to create an interactive environment that allows the player to make choices to progress the story. The key technology we are using in this project is a branching dialogue system, which allows the player to make decisions that influence how the story continues. The narrative is delivered through an interactive game where the player controls the decisions of Javan. Rather than passively watching the story, the player is placed directly into the conflicts and chooses what to do next. The core mechanic is the branching dialogue system, where the player is given choices that change the outcome of the story. These choices are not right or wrong, but instead show different approaches such as following or going against societal expectations. This allows the player to experience the tension between pacifism and action firsthand. As the story progresses, the consequences of the decisions made earlier become more noticeable. Characters react differently, relationships change, and the player begins to feel social pressure that Javan will feel. One of the key unique selling points of this project is the focus on moral conflict rather than physical conflict. Many narrative structures show violence as the solution. This story questions whether violence should be used at all, and what happens if it becomes necessary. Another point is the reversal in the traditional hero roles. Instead of learning to avoid violence, Javan learns how to use it responsibly, which creates a more complex story. The use of a branching dialogue system also helps make it unique. Rather than having a fixed dialogue, the player is able to choose how the story changes. This increases engagement and allows the player to explore different perspectives in the same story. The last point is the way the story shows two extreme ideologies: absolute pacifism and violence, with Javan being in the middle of them. This creates a balanced narrative rather than a simple good versus evil conflict. In conclusion, the project presents a dystopian future that explores the limits of pacifism. The project demonstrates how traditional narrative structures such as the hero's journey can be combined with digital technologies to create an interactive storytelling experience. By using a branching dialogue system, the narrative becomes something the player can actively change rather than just observe. Due to some internal limitations, a fully completed prototype was not achieved. However, the narrative design, structure, characters, and intended experience has been developed to provide a strong foundation for what could have been a full prototype. Overall, this project aims to create a meaningful story that challenges the audience to consider what system, if any, can truly function in all situations, and how narrative can be shown through digital interaction. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to ask any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now.